Elliot stood in the midst of a lively family gathering, the clinking of glasses and the aroma of grilled meat filling the air. At 30, he managed a thriving pet care chain in New York, his days filled with the quiet satisfaction of a secure job, a cozy apartment, and a small, sunlit workplace where he often worked late. From the outside, his life seemed enviable, but beneath the surface, a fracture had been growing for years. A year ago, on Easter Sunday, he made a choice that would redefine his life. He walked away from his family. The decision wasn't impulsive. It came after years of feeling like an outsider in his own home. That Easter, the family gathered in their sprawling Manhattan house, relatives from near and far filling the rooms with chatter and laughter. Elliot arrived early, as was his habit, carrying a chocolate mousse cake from a Brooklyn bakery, his mother Clara's favorite. He placed it on the kitchen counter, a small gesture to bridge the distance that had grown between them. In recent years, he'd brought wine, pastries, or flowers, hoping these tokens might preserve a flicker of connection. But the gap only widened. The celebration began as it always did, with glasses clinking and conversations about real estate stocks and children's schools. Elliot sat quietly at the corner of the table, listening but not joining in. He didn't need to. His family had long stopped expecting his input. Then, 30 minutes into the meal, his father, George, stood, raising his glass with the commanding voice he reserved for big announcements. "Everyone, please quiet down. We have something to share." The room fell silent. "Our family has decided that all the assets, the company, the shares, the real estate, will be handed over to Lucas." The words hit Elliot like a slow-motion shockwave. His heart seemed to pause, and the room erupted in applause, loud and mechanical, as if on cue. Clara spoke next, her eyes gleaming with pride. "Lucas has been working at the family company for 5 years now. He'll carry on the legacy and take it to the next level." Elliot stared at his water glass, the chill of it seeping into his fingertips, unable to dull the ache in his chest. No one looked at him. No one asked, "What about Elliot?" He was there, but invisible, erased from the family's story. Lucas, his younger brother by 2 years, had always been the favored one. Growing up, Elliot believed their parents saw them as equals. Birthdays were split evenly. 2 cakes, 2 candy bags, 2 bikes in different colors. Punishments were shared, like when they scribbled on the wall and knelt together to scrub it clean. But that fairness faded when Elliot turned 18. He'd shared his dream of studying veterinary medicine with George, hoping for support. Instead, his father's response was cold and final. "I'm not putting a single dime into that career. If that's what you want, you're on your own." That moment shattered Elliot's understanding of family, marking the beginning of a quiet, progressive detachment. Despite the rejection, Elliot never abandoned them. He sent roses for Mother's Day, helped install a new AC for George, and showed up when the family business struggled. A year before the Easter announcement, George called late one night, his voice low and unsteady. The company was in crisis, needing $80,000 to survive a failed contract. Elliot suggested formal documentation, but George dismissed it, saying, "When your mother and I are gone, you'll still have a share of the company. This is family business." Trusting his father, Elliot wired the money the next morning, clinging to the word family. He didn't ask for a contract, a decision he'd later regret. That Easter, when George announced Lucas would inherit everything, Elliot couldn't stay silent. "What about me?" he asked, his voice cutting through the room's hum. Whispers followed. "That's right. What about Elliot? He's Lucas's older brother." Clara tried to smooth things over, her tone gentle but dismissive. "Elliot, you already have a career, a house, a car. Lucas has nothing." Elliot's response was measured but sharp. "That career? I built it with my own hands. I left home at 18, earned a scholarship, worked through school, and saved every dollar. You paid for Lucas's tuition, covered his expenses, and now you hand everything to him like I never existed. I'm your son too." Lucas interjected smugly. "Mom's right. You shouldn't be competing with me." Elliot snapped, "Shut your mouth. You don't even have the right to speak." George slammed his hand on the table, his voice venomous. "That's enough, Elliot. Lucas followed the path we laid out. You didn't. If you hadn't chosen those filthy animals, this company would have been yours." Stunned, Elliot retorted, That's an insult. It was thanks to those filthy animals that I made the $80,000 that saved your company. If you look down on my job that much, pay me back right now." George's face reddened. "I'm not giving you a damn cent. I brought you into this world, raised you, fed you, educated you. Do you know how much I spent on you? And now you're out there cleaning up after dogs and cats. You're an embarrassment." The words severed the last thread of Elliot's loyalty. "If that's how you feel, we have nothing to do with each other from now on. Don't come looking for me again." He turned to leave but paused. "Dad, I never asked to be born, so don't throw your sacrifices in my face to guilt me into following your path." With that, he walked out, head high, and never looked back. That night, back in his apartment, Elliot stood under the shower, letting the water wash away the hurt and injustice. He brewed a strong coffee and sat by the window, reflecting on the day he left home at 18 with just a suitcase and some savings. Those early years were tough. Part-time jobs, a modest studio apartment, and student loans. His parents never checked on him. But in his third year out, a whim changed everything. He made a pet care video, using books and shoeboxes as a tripod, and posted it online. To his shock, it went viral, amassing 3 million views in 48 hours. Comments and messages poured in, revealing a hunger for his knowledge. More videos followed, and within months, Elliot earned $2,000 from ads and sponsorships. A year later, he had 2 million followers across platforms. Pet care brands offered collaborations, and with his community's support, he opened Whisker and Paw, his first pet care store. It thrived, fueled by his sincerity and the loyalty of his online followers. Within 4 years, Whisker and Paw grew to 7 locations across New York's boroughs, employing over 30 staff, his chosen family. Elliot kept his success private, especially from his family. A mentor's advice stuck with him. Never flaunt your success, not even to your parents. He understood why when envy turned admiration into resentment. He returned for holidays, bringing gifts but never mentioning his achievements. They saw him as Elliot, the pet sitter, and he preferred it that way. 6 months after Easter, his phone rang on a Saturday morning. It was George. "The company's in serious trouble," he said. "Lucas signed the wrong contract. We're looking at $120,000 in damages. Can you help us for the family's reputation?" Elliot's response was firm. $80,000 was more than enough, Dad. If you want my help, start by paying that back." When George fell silent, Elliot added, "If you're only trying to save the family name, that name never once stood up for me." He hung up, leaving them to their mess. The next morning, his doorbell rang at 7 a.m. George, Clara, and Lucas stood at his door, uninvited. Elliot blocked the entrance. "If you're here for $120,000, turn around. I'm not helping." Clara's voice trembled. "Elliot, you have a whole chain of pet care stores. $120,000 isn't that much to you. I'm begging you. If you don't help, the company will collapse." Lucas stepped forward, his voice soft. "Henry, please, just this once. I know I messed up." Elliot let them speak, gripping the doorframe. Then he said, "Leave before I call the police." When Clara tried to protest, he repeated, "I have nothing to do with any of you anymore. You live with the consequences of your favoritism. If the company collapses, that's not a tragedy. It's a consequence." After they left, a question nagged at Elliot. How did they know about his 7 stores? He'd never shared that detail, keeping his business private even at family gatherings. Then it hit him. His YouTube channel, his pet care videos, gentle and heartfelt, were public. Someone must have seen them, or his family found them themselves. The realization chilled him, not out of fear, but because he knew they'd exploit any opportunity. He texted them a warning. "If you, Mom, or Lucas take any action that damages my reputation or business, I will sue. I'm serious." But Lucas ignored it. The next day, he posted on social media, claiming Elliot abandoned the family near bankruptcy, ignored their pleas, and treated them like strangers. The twisted narrative painted Elliot as a cold, affluent villain. Clients canceled appointments, hate mail flooded his inbox, and his business risked collapse. Elliot met with Brian, his attorney and old friend. Showing him screenshots, revenue losses, and Lucas's post, he explained the damage. Brian smiled. "You just hit the jackpot, Elliot. Everything Lucas has done, the post, the damage to your business and reputation, adds up to a solid civil case. With this evidence, you're looking at a big payout. Elliot handed over his paperwork. Draft the case. You have full authority. They shook hands and Elliot felt unburdened. Weeks later, Lucas's lawyer proposed a settlement. Brian showed Elliot the offer. The family wanted to sell the company, with them staying on as advisors. Elliot scanned the document and said, "Tell them I'm not interested. I'm not buying the company or hiring relatives as consultants. I'm not saving a family just to be treated like a walking wallet." The trial began 3 months later. In the Manhattan courthouse, Elliot faced Lucas, who looked nervous, his earlier arrogance gone. Brian presented meticulous evidence: canceled contracts, store closures, and financial losses. Lucas's team claimed the post was personal, its impact unintended, but the judge wasn't convinced. The verdict came. The defendant, Lucas, is found liable for significant commercial damages and is ordered to compensate the plaintiff, Elliot, for direct losses totaling $248,000. Elliot left the courtroom without looking at Lucas, closing a painful chapter. Lucas sold the family company and his house to pay the damages. Elliot didn't inquire further. He didn't care. They'd ignored his warning and paid the price. 6 months of peace followed until 3 days ago, when his doorbell rang at 7 a.m. Clara stood there, her face sunken, eyes red. "Your father's in the hospital. It's serious. The treatment costs about $20,000. I know I was wrong, but please help me." Elliot felt no anger, only emptiness. "To me, my parents died the day you let Lucas destroy my career," and said nothing. "I don't give money to the dead." Clara froze, lips trembling, but said nothing. "Ask your heir," Elliot added, closing the door. Later that day, he called the hospital to verify Clara's story. George was indeed hospitalized, with treatment costing around $20,000. Elliot nearly paid, but memories of that Easter, when they handed everything to Lucas and dismissed him, stopped him. He checked with real estate contacts and learned his parents owned a $400,000 house, unencumbered. He texted Clara, "You still have the house. Sell it to pay for Dad's treatment." She didn't reply, perhaps unwilling to part with the house meant for Lucas. Elliot doesn't expect anything from his family anymore. He still believes in family, but now knows it's not always where you're born. Sometimes it's where you choose to belong. He shares this story not for pity or anger, but for those who feel trapped in similar cycles, expected to endure because they've succeeded. To them, he says, "You're not selfish for setting boundaries. Sometimes kindness needs limits, and one-sided love must be let go." Was Elliot wrong to walk away from a family that treated him as a backup plan? Was he too harsh for refusing to help those who rejected him when he needed them most? He leaves that for others to decide, and grateful for those who've listened to his story.